Good morning, students. Today we will see the obstetrics and gynecological question paper of 2016 scheme, which was conducted in the month of April 2021. So the first question was, define placenta previa, enumerate the types of placenta previa, and explain the management of a client with placenta previa. So when the placenta is implanted partially or completely over the lower uterine segment, we call it as a placenta previa. The types include first one, type 1 or low lying. That means a major part of the placenta is in the upper uterine segment and only a lower margin encroaches into the lower uterine segment but not up to the internal os. The type 2 or the marginal placenta reaches the margin of the internal os but does not cover it. And type 3 or incomplete or otherwise called as partial central. In this case, the placenta covers the internal os partially but does not cover fully when the cervix is fully dilated. Type 4 or central placenta previa or total placenta previa. It means the placenta completely covers the internal os even after the cervix is fully dilated. The management of a client with placenta previa. We can divide this patient into two types, one with no active bleeding and one with late pregnancy bleeding. So if there is no active bleeding present, the expected management include no sexual intercourse, no digital examinations or poor vaginal examination. But the patient present with a late pregnancy bleeding, we have to assess the overall status of the mother, circulatory stability, full course of anti-D if the woman is Rh negative, consider the maternal transfer to a tertiary center if the fetus is premature and adequate facility is not available in the present hospital, and may need corticosteroids, tocolysis and amniocentesis. And immediate attention include we have to check for the amount of blood loss by noting the general condition of the patient, the pallor, pulse rate and blood pressure. Blood samples are taken, an infusion of normal saline, abdominal examination and inspection of vulva to note the presence of bleeding. Pulse and BP should be monitored. Blood should be drawn for hemoglobin, blood group, bleeding time, clotting time, PTT, urine check for albumin. In case of hypovolemia and shock, IV drip has to be started and sedation has to be given to the patient. Further management depend upon the amount of bleeding and general condition of the mother, gestational period and fetal maturity and presence of fetal malformation and whether the fetus is alive or dead. Active management is required if the woman is bleeding profusely and the pregnancy is 38 weeks or more, or the fetus is dead or grossly malformed as seen on the ultrasound. The major degree of placenta previa requires cesarean section irrespective of the fetal condition. That means the fetus is premature or dead or malformed. In this case, we have to go for a cesarean section when the mother is present with a major degree of placenta previa. Type 1 and type 2 managed by rupture of membrane and labor is induced with oxytocin drip. PPH is prevented by timely Mothergin and oxytocin drip. If not bleeding profusely or bleeding is got control, the conservative management which include complete bed rest and sedation, daily monitoring of mother's and fetal condition, ultrasound, done to confirm the fetal maturity, to rule out malformation and to localize the placenta, and when pregnancy reaches around 38 weeks, patient must be taken either for induction or cesarean section depending upon the condition and position of the placenta. Conservative management with the bed rest and hospitalization until the fetus is mature. If the woman discharged, she needs availability of immediate transport to the hospital for recurrent bleeding. IV access and at least 2 units of blood should be available at all times. Continuous fetal monitoring and amniocentesis may require to determine the fetal lung maturity. The nursing management, the main nursing diagnosis include the fluid volume deficit related to the excessive blood loss, altered uteroplacental tissue perfusion related to the hypovolemia, fear related to the threat of death, and high risk for maternal injury related to the tissue hypoxia, impaired immune system. The short essay, the first question was explain the physiological changes during the first stage of labor. There are two types of major physiological changes which occurs in the first stage of labor. The first one is uterine action and second one is the mechanical action. First we will see the uterine action. The first one, in uterine action, the first one is fundal dominance. Contraction begins in the fundus, then it spread across downwards the body of the uterus. It is maximum intensity at the fundus. This is known as the fundal dominance. Second is polarity. Polarity is the neuromuscular harmony between two poles. Two poles means upper uterine segment and lower uterine segment of the uterus throughout the labor. Third is contraction and retraction. The uterine contractions are involuntary. They are controlled by nervous system and endocrine influence of the woman's body. During the labor, the contraction does not pass off completely. After the contraction, it retains some amount of contraction. It is the unique property of the uterine muscle and it is known as the retraction. Formation of upper and lower uterine segment. Upper part is more muscular, mainly deals with the contraction, and lower part is thinner and it deals with the distension and dilation. Retraction ring. A ridge between the upper and lower uterine segment is known as the retraction ring. Normally, it is not visible over the abdomen, but during the obstructed labor, it is prominent over the abdomen and called as Bandel's ring. And cervical effacement. The term refers to the merging of the cervical canal into the lower uterine segment, leaving external os as thin-edged circular orifice. Cervical dilatation. The process of enlargement of cervical os from few millimeters to opening large enough to pass the baby, we call it as a cervical dilatation. Ripening of cervix. The process by which the cervix becomes soft, complete and partially dilated is termed as cervical ripening. And the mechanical factors include, first one is the formation of forewater, in that the lower uterine segment stretches as a result of the strong actions of the uterine muscles and general fluid pressure. During the uterine contraction, there is a lot of pressure on the fetus, the membrane and the placenta, umbilical cord and amniotic fluid. This pressure of the uterine contraction is equalized throughout the uterus if the membranes are intact because of the bag of waters counterbalance the pressure of uterine contraction. This is called as the general fluid pressure. Rupture of membrane. The ideal time for the rupture of membrane is the end of the first stage of labor. And lastly, the fetal access pressure. The third question is discuss the management of pelvic inflammatory disease. The pelvic inflammatory disease is a spectrum of infection and inflammation of the upper genital tract organs typically involving the uterus, that means the endometrium, fallopian tube, ovaries, pelvic peritoneum and surrounding structures. It is attributed to the ascending spread of the microorganisms from cervicovaginal canal to the contiguous pelvic structures causing endometritis, salpingitis, pelvic peritonitis or tubo-ovarian abscess. The principles of therapy are included to prevent the reinfection, to prevent infertility and late sequelae, to control the infections. Outpatient therapy, apart from the adequate rest, analgesics, antibiotics have to be prescribed even before the microbiological report is available. As because the infection is polymicrobial in nature, instead, all patients treated outpatients are evaluated after 48 hours and if no response, they have to be hospitalized. In patient therapy, the patients are to be hospitalized for antibiotic therapy in these conditions. The conditions include suspected tubo-ovarian abscess, severe illness, vomiting, high temperature, uncertain diagnosis, unresponsive outpatient therapy, intolerance to oral antibiotics, and coexisting pregnancy. Bed rest is imposed, oral feeding is restricted, dehydration and acidosis are to be corrected by intravenous fluid. Intravenous antibiotics are recommended for at least 48 hours but may be extended to 4 days. If necessary, the improvement of patient is evidenced by remission of temperature, improvement of pelvic tenderness, normal white blood cell count, and negative report on bacteriological study. Regimen A, that is cefotaxime 2 gram IV every 6 hours for 2 to 4 days plus doxycycline 100 mg per oral for 14 days. Regimen B, clindamycin 900 mg IV for every 8 hours plus gentamicin 2 mg per kg, that is as a loading dose, followed by 1.5 mg per kg as the maintenance dose every 8th hourly. Indications for surgery include unequivocal indications include generalized peritonitis, pelvic abscess, and tubo-ovarian abscess which does not respond to the antimicrobial therapy. Short notes, the first one is ethical aspect in obstetrics. The first one is ethical principles of beneficence. The ethical principles of beneficence requires one to act in a way that expected reliability to produce a greater balance of benefits over harms in the lives of others. Non-malfeasance, it means the health professionals should be prevent causing harm, and it is understood as expressing the limit of beneficence. Respect for autonomy, this principle requires one always to acknowledge and carry out a value-based preference to adult competent patient. And beneficence and respect for autonomy is gynecological practice. Beneficence based on autonomy based in clinical judgment in gynecology practice are usefully in harmony. Caring. The healthcare professionals usually care for their clients as such would always have their best interest in mind. Some other ethical issues are conceptual issues related to IVF, cloning, surrogate mother, abortion, fetal rights versus rights of the mother, use of fetal tissue for research and resuscitation and continuation. Types of episiotomy. Episiotomy is a deliberate incision to the perineal tissues which is designed to enlarge the vulval outlet during the delivery. It involves the forehead, the superficial muscles, and the skin of the perineum and posterior vaginal wall. It should not be too late or too early. Type of incisions include mediolateral. It begins at the midpoint of the forehead at the angle of 45 degrees towards midway between the ischial tuberosities and the anus. It avoids danger to damage both sphincter and Bartholin's gland but more difficult to repair. Median, it is the midline incision which follows the natural line of insertion of the perineal muscles. It is associated with reduced blood loss but higher incidence of damage to the anal sphincter. Levels of neonatal care. In every year, 4 million newborns baby die in the first month of their life. In that, 99% of this is low and middle income countries. India carries the single largest share, that means around 25 to 30% of neonatal death in the world. Neonatal deaths constitute 2/3 of the infant death in India. 45% of the death occur within the first 2 days of life. In India, the neonatal care level is divided into 3, level 1, level 2 and level 3. The level 1 care, neonates weighing more than 1,800 grams or having gestational maturity of 34 weeks or more are categorized under level 1 care. The care consists of basic care at the birth, provision of warmth, maintaining asepsis and promotion of breastfeeding. This type of care can be given at home, sub-center and primary health care center. Level 2 care, neonates weighing between 1,200 to 1,800 grams or having gestational maturity between 30 to 34 weeks are generally categorized under level 2 care and looked after by trained nurses and pediatricians. Equipments and facilities used in this care include equipments for resuscitation, maintenance of thermoneutral environment, intravenous infusions, gavage feeding, phototherapy, X-ray and blood transfusion. This type of care can be given at the first referral units, district hospitals, teaching institutions and nursing homes. Level 3, neonates weighing less than 1,200 grams or having a gestational maturity of less than 30 to 30 weeks are categorized under level 3 care. The care provided are apex institutions and regional perinatal centers equipped with centralized oxygen and suction facilities, servo control incubators, vital signs monitors, transcutaneous monitors, ventilators, infusion pumps, etc. This type of care is provided by skilled nurses and neonatologists. Minor disorders of newborn. These minor disorders of newborn include minor disorders of newborn means a disorder which does not need a medical treatment, it can be care at home but the home management can be reduced. They include vomiting, failure to pass meconium, constipation, diarrhea, physiological jaundice, hiccups, sneezing, fever, excessive cry, oral thrush, excessive sleep, mastitis neonatorum, vaginal bleeding, caput succinum, cephal hematoma, asymmetric head shape, store buttocks or napkin rashes, erythema toxicum, then stalk bites, subconjunctival hemorrhage, subcutaneous fat necrosis, tongue tie, acne neotorum, congenital hydrocele, congenital teeth, bow legs, umbilical hernia. Abnormal uterine action. That means any deviation of normal pattern of uterine contractions affecting the course of labor is known as abnormal uterine action. The etiology include prevalent in the first birth with progressive age of the mother, prolonged pregnancy, overdistension of uterus, psychological factors, contracted pelvis, malpresentation, full bladder, injudicious administration of sedatives, premature attempt for a vaginal delivery. Uterine inertia is the common type of abnormal uterine contraction but is comparatively less serious. It may complicate at any stage of labor. It may be present from beginning of the labor or develop subsequently after a variable period of effective contractions. Others include incoordinate uterine action, spastic lower uterine segment, uterine contraction, constriction ring, otherwise known as contraction ring or Schrocker ring, then cervical dystocia, generalized tonic contractions or uterine tetany, tonic uterine contractions and retractions like Bandl's ring or it is known as pathological retraction ring. Precipitate labor. Differentiate between gynecoid pelvis and android pelvis. Gynecoid pelvis is the inlet is slightly oval and the android is heart-shaped with anterior narrow apex. The mid-pelvis cavity shallow, straight, blunt, broad and well-curved and the sacroischial notch is wide. But android, the cavity is funnel-shaped, the side walls are convergent, ischial spines are projecting, sacrum is slightly curved and sacroischial notch is narrow. The pelvic outlet in the gynecoid is optimic is wide, that means android is narrow. The difference between medical induction and surgical induction. Medical inductions, the drugs which we use are prostaglandin, oxytocin, mifepristone. Indications for medical methods are intrauterine death, premature rupture of membrane, and also it can be done in association with surgical induction. Surgical induction include the artificial rupture of membrane and stripping of membrane. The indications include abruptia placenta, chronic hydramnios, severe preeclampsia and eclampsia, and also it can also use along with a combination with medical induction. Difference between anteversion of uterus and retroversion of uterus. Anteverted uterus is the anterior tilt of the cervix is severe, resulting in a much greater forward flexing uterus in the abdominal region. A woman with an antiflex uterus may experience an increase in pressure in the pelvic region. The normal presentation for the uterus is anteverted. Although this is considered the normal positioning of the uterus and it is only common about 50% of women. But a retroverted uterus is a uterus that oriented posteriorly toward the back of the body. Causes include pelvic surgery, pelvic adhesions, endometriosis, fibroids, pelvic inflammatory disease, or labor of childbirth can change the position of a uterus to retroverted. The treatment options are rarely needed and include exercise, pessary, manual repositioning, and a surgery. Answer briefly. Management of intrauterine growth restrictions. The management include adequate rest in lateral position, balanced diet to correct nutrition, appropriate therapy for associated complications, avoidance of smoking and alcohol, maternal hyperoxygenation, low dose aspirin seems to improve the growth rate. Termination of pregnancy is required, but the optimal time is selected by the biophysical profile and fetal maturity. During the vaginal delivery, careful fetal monitoring to avoid fetal death due to fetal distress. The cord prolapse. Umbilical cord prolapse is when the umbilical cord comes out of the uterus with or before the presenting part of the body. This concern, the cord prolapse is the pressure on the cord from the baby which compresses the blood flow to the baby. It usually occurs during the labor but can occur at any time after the rupture of membrane. The diagnosis should be suspected if there is a sudden decrease in the baby's heart rate during the labor. Seeing or feeling the cord confirms the diagnosis. Management focus on quick delivery, usually by cesarean section. Filling the bladder or pushing up the baby by hand recommended until this can't take place. And sometimes women will be placed in Nietzsche's position for Trendelenburg position in order to prevent further cord compression. With appropriate management, the majority of cases have good outcomes. Vasectomy. Vasectomy is a surgical procedure for male sterilization or permanent contraception. During the procedure, the male vasa deferentia cut and tied or severed so to prevent the sperm from entering into the urethra and prevent fertilization of female through the sexual intercourse. Due to the simplicity of surgery, a vasectomy usually takes less than 30 minutes to complete. After a short recovery, the doctor's office, usually less than an hour, the patient is sent home to rest. After vasectomy, the contraceptive precautions must be continued until azoospermia is confirmed. Usually, 2-7 analysis at least 3 and 4 months are necessary to confirm the azoospermia. Thank you for listening.